Okay, folks, we're back for round two. That game went super duper long, so I got done at like 1 p.m. and the next round starts at 1:45. So I had to drive real quick to get some fast food. Had a little bit of McDonald's, which didn't feel great, but it's food. My options were like not eat or eat something terrible, and I figured like being hungry the entire game was not going to make me happy. And I'm looking forward to playing in this round, which I think will be good. I have no idea whether or not drawing means they're going to like pair me up or pair me down. I think we're the only pair that drew this round, so I don't know if I'm playing somebody that won their last game or lost their last game. I'm rated relatively high, so I assume that they'll just assume that they should pair me up and pair him down, but I don't know. And I expect to have black this coming round. Whether or not that's actually the case, I don't know. We'll see. The last game was super long and super interesting. I have had a little bit of time to look at it with the computer down. I'm sure you saw in the last video. For the most part, my opponent was winning for most of it, and I managed to sort of slide my way out of what was a difficult position. So I'm pleased with that. We played relatively well against an opening that we weren't super comfortable against. I'm hopeful that this time we get to play something that we're a little bit more comfortable against, but that almost never happens in these over the board chess tournaments. I always end up playing somebody who plays something that I've never seen before and I've got to figure it out. And the time that didn't happen, I played a King's Gambit and won in like 13 moves. So, all right, I'll see you guys after the round. Peace.
All right, folks, we've got an analysis of round two. Let me flip the board because we were playing black against Kun Hui. I played this game on Saturday, and it is Monday, and already I don't remember a ton about the game, so we're just going to have to figure it out together as we go along. Anyways, our opponent starts e4, and we've decided to play e5. Like, I've tried to consider what the appropriate opening for me to play is, and maybe I should look into the French or something, but for right now, playing e4, e5 has been more comfortable for me. Playing c5, I tried for a little while, but it's too tactical. You have to know too much of what's going on. Knight f3, knight c6, and d4. So the Scotch game, and we play the Scotch game accepted. E takes d4, knight takes d4, and I was trying to figure out, okay, what I don't want to see happen is, let's say I play something like here. I don't want to see takes, and be stuck not castling. In theory, this could be fine. It's only mildly better for white, but I did not like it. To me, this seemed like a position that I was he can castle and I can't, and then I've got to figure out the complications of the middle game. So I didn't really like it. So instead I thought, okay, how can we keep this knight here? Or how can we at least remove some of the sting of this trade? And so the answer is queen f6, which is apparently totally normal and fine. Our opponent defends their knight and we attack it again. And then our opponent plays c3. So at this point, that knight is not budging. It's not going anywhere. And we get ready to castle. We play knight ge7, and our opponent plays bishop c4. And so at this point, I was debating several things about what could be true. And the thing I thought more than anything is, okay, well, is there a way that I can get my opponent to not castle? That would be good. Or is there some way that I can get a weakness in my opponent's position? This pawn is either a weakness or a strength. But if there's something I can do to this queenside structure, that would be great, especially because there's all this tension on this knight. So I play knight takes d4, and our opponent takes with the c pawn. And we play bishop b4 check, and our opponent plays knight c3. And so at this point, I'm thinking, okay, well, I can take and see here. But then we've got weaknesses along here, and my bishop's not really developed, and our opponent has a strong center. So I figure, okay, if some things come here, I would rather be castled than not. So we castle and our opponent castles. And you can see that this treatment of the game is not exactly correct. That's 1.1 for our opponent. So already we've gone a little bit wrong here. And playing against the Scotch, I should come up with a line that I'm more comfortable with, because this has not gone well for us. So in this position, one thing I recognize is I've got my queen on the king side here, right? And I would love it if when I develop this bishop, if I play d6, then this bishop's just gonna be stuck on this side of the board. That's probably a better treatment of the position. I play b6, thinking that I want to go here, but the downside is that means that my opponent's gonna have an unpaired dark square bishop. And you can see it goes from 1.1 to 1.7. Our opponent responds correctly, a3. Now, if we try and back up pretty much anywhere, things go poorly for us. And if we back up in the other direction, then obviously we're just losing a bishop, which is no good. So the only reasonable response for us to do is to play takes here. And now our opponent has actually a pretty strong, this looks very, if we flip the board, this looks like the setup for a, what is it? For an Alpine Sicilian, right? C3, D4, E4. So let's flip the board back so we don't lose what we're up to. So our opponent has a really strong center now, and so we basically have to play a pretty cramped position. Now, the computer says, okay, making this trade and getting into this position is actually more even for us. But again, we're cramped, so we got to figure out what we're doing. We play bishop b7, and our opponent plays f3. So bishop b7 is not the right treatment of the position. It could be true that instead of bishop b7, we need to play something like d5. But here, let's see what the computer is thinking that we need to do in this position. It does say d5, but then when you play d5, the computer goes, hey, what are you talking about? E takes d5 is not the best here. So let's turn back off the lines. Anyways, we play bishop b7. That allows for f3, and because we don't have a dark square bishop, this diagonal actually just like doesn't matter at all. So now we play d5. Our opponent plays bishop d3, and we play c6. You know, if we can eventually bust this up, then we'll be able to come get his king. But again, the computer does not love what we're doing here. We're already mistreating the position a little bit. We're going to have a hard time playing against this strong center. This bishop is going to be undefended in certain positions. We haven't gotten our rooks into the game. This is just too much central control for our opponent. So our opponent plays e5, and we play queen e6 because that's all we can do. And our opponent plays f4, which is surprising. Now, apparently what we need to do here is play f5 ourselves. If takes en passant, then first of all, I think we can just take this with check, obviously, right? So that's not playable. And since our opponent can't take with en passant, we sort of like close down the position. Things are in theory you can go here and here, but again you've lost a bishop. So this would have stopped our opponents in their tracks, I think. But we played knight f5, which is not good. And you can see the computer saying, okay, now it's +3 for white. So now we're really lost here. The reason that I played that, which our opponent recognizes, is I'd like to get rid of this bishop, because if that's the case, then I can more effectively target these weaknesses, and I would also love it, again, if we saw takes and takes here. Again, eventually our goal here is to be able to play c5 and d4, and so the only way to be able to do that is to eventually make it so that this bishop isn't such a strong protector here. So our opponent plays bishop f2 and play rook ac8. Now, that's probably the nail in the coffin insofar as that move wastes a tempo, because it allows our opponent to play g4, and he's just going for it. So now we're like in a little bit of an awkward position, right? Like, what we end up having to do is we go back with our knight. Obviously, we don't want to play playing knight h6 is like even worse. In that position, you can get something like this, and it's things here are not great. It's already +4. So we go back with our knight, and our opponent plays h3. And h3, I think, is a small mistreatment of the position. It goes from +4 to +1.5, but things are, again, not good. Now, I played f5, and my opponent offered me a draw here. I said, let me think about it, and then he immediately played another move. In retrospect, knowing that this is +2 for our opponent, I should have taken the draw. However, and this actually shows how bad this knight f5 move, right? Because if I just play this here, what my opponent ended up doing was taking en passant, but you can't here because this comes with check. And instead, maneuvering our knight here and then coming back means that when we play f5, en passant is possible because there's no bishop with check here, right? So now I think I need to play g takes. I think that's what the critical line is, but that's not what I saw. I played rook takes. I also thought about playing queen takes, but then we see push here, and actually we probably don't see push there. We probably see f5. Maybe queen takes is better. Here, let's open up the lines again and figure it out. The options here are, if we go back, yeah, queen takes is best, g takes is second best, and rook takes is sort of a mistreatment of the position. So we played rook takes, which is the worst of those three lines, unfortunately. But I wanted to be ready to keep our queen in an infiltrating square. The other thing that I was very aware of, again, is if I can get through here, then great. Our opponent plays bishop f4. We play queen e3 check now that the bishop has vacated that square. Our opponent plays king g2, and our opponent took forever on this move, if I remember correctly. Here, let me get the notation sheet out, and we can double check that. No, this is not the move that our opponent spent forever. Our opponent took no time up to this point. He played king g2 immediately. I play rook f7, which is also apparently wrong. Rook e1, we take the pawn. Rook takes, bishop takes, and I played c5. And it was in this position that our opponent spent forever trying to figure out what to do. So obviously, if you let me take and then take, then the rook is free to enter the game. We actually have some compensation. So for example, also we could see takes, push with check. And then obviously this is great for black. It's mate in 6. So our opponent shouldn't take. If our opponent plays, queen here, for example, then I think we have takes. Is that right? Here, and then I can't remember. No, this is not great for white. Okay, so that move is fine. Let me pull open the lines, because I felt like there are a lot of treatments that are okay. But the one that's problematic is if our opponent takes the pawn. Anyways, in this position, our opponent spent forever trying to figure out where to move their queen. One of the things that perhaps they'd like to be able to do is play here, but that comes with this check. And if they'll play king h1, great. If they try and move their queen, then like obviously like we're threatening a bishop. So if they try and block with their queen, they can't do that. So if they play here, then we take there. If instead they play here, damn, what was I supposed to do? Oh, takes. Oh, okay. And so we're down a piece, but apparently rook e8 skewers the bishops. I see. So I had spent some time calculating this, and I remember some of this from the game. Our opponent plays the only correct move, or like the most correct move as a response, and they spent 20 minutes on this move, and that is queen e2. And so now I don't have any infiltration squares, I don't have any checks, I don't have anything that I can do. Taking here doesn't really like solve the problem for us, but I don't see anything better for us to do, right? Like we do eventually have to get this bishop involved in the game in order for us to be able to do anything. And so I play takes. Our opponent plays rook f1 to get our queen to go somewhere, and this is sort of our last chance to bail out of the game and just try and play down a piece. I could play here. And then if takes, then obviously we have the opportunity to play here. And, you know, it's +3, but it's not as bad as it was a second ago where it's like, I don't know, +5. But we don't want it. Yeah, it's +9 here. So we play queen c7 because I'm like, look, I got to keep this queen on the board if I'm going to have any chance. And so from here, it's a relatively clinical for our opponent. They play c takes. We play rook e8. They double up. We move our queen forward, trying to get some activity. Again, if we can just get this pawn out of the way and then move our queen, then we'll be able to push. But again, we're sort of, at this point, we have to hope, right? So we're just trying to play for activity. Our opponent plays queen e6 check. One legal move to the corner. Queen f5. That threatens here. So the only way to not get mated is either to take the bishop, which is what the computer suggests, or to play g6, which we did. Our opponent plays check here, check here. And I had seen, you know, I sat there and figured out that this was all mate. Next comes pawn push check here, and then checkmate, which was a relatively pretty mate. And I saw that from about here. I think that there's a slightly faster mate, if I recall correctly. But I can't remember what exactly it is. I think there's a faster mate somewhere back when I played g6. I think it's probably this. Here. This? Is that right? Here and this? Is that right? That looks right. Yeah, that's the faster checkmate. Anyway, so a decent game for us, not our best. But you know, if we go back to like the early game, I think that we need to just find a better treatment. Like when we see this Scotch game, which like we're only 3 moves into the game, I need to have a reasonable treatment for this because so much of this is poisonous, and I really struggle to play against it. Anyways, let's see how I was feeling after the game.
All right, so just done with round 2. We were playing black against Kun Hui, who's rated 1164. He lost in the first round, so we got paired down. We had black, which isn't our favorite. But he played e4, we played e5, knight f3, knight c6, and he played d4. So those are the sort of open center positions that lead to some sort of attacking games. And he was coming for me the entire time. He was pushing g4, he was pushing f4. There were some points where I thought I had like lost a piece, and at a certain point I did have to sacrifice a piece. And I thought I had some counterplay, and he spent 20 minutes thinking. He was trying to figure out what to do, and he eventually found what I think was the best move for him. I think if he played anything else, I would have had some chances. But at the point where he played queen e2, if you saw in the recap, I'm pretty sure from that point on I had no hope. It was a swift death from there, but I play until mate, which he seemed mildly annoyed at. He kept saying check every time he would check me, really loudly, which is a little annoying to other players, and just annoying in general. I don't know that he knew that you don't have to do that, but I'm not one to sit there, you know, that's not the position where you inform people of that when they're in the middle of mating you. I mean, I guess you can tell them whatever, but so I didn't want it to come across like I was being a sore loser or something. Anyways, that hurts a little bit, but luckily now we have 2.5 hours until the next round, which is nice. We can go home, we can relax a little bit, we can maybe get a bike ride in, take a shower. We'll see what we're doing. That would hurt a little bit, but not that much. His rating was pretty close to mine. It was a pretty close game. I was playing back. I thought I was defending okay. I think I was baited a little bit. My opponent played pretty swiftly in the opening. He appeared to know exactly what he wanted to do, and I did not respond by being calm and methodical, which I should have. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next round. I'm going to go take a rest. Bye.
Okay, so you guys remember this from last time. First round, we played a 1071 and drew. So in our second round, So in our second round, we were playing somebody rated 1164, and we lost. So our new performance rating is 924, and our new rating is 1158. So not super great.